Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the city in which we live. Guide us this afternoon as we make our decisions. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
This is the Newnan City Council regular meeting of October the 13th, 2020. You have the minutes of the regular meeting of September the 21st, 2020 before you. I'll entertain a motion we adopt those minutes.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, we adopt the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next item of minutes of the special call meeting on September the 29th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion we adopt those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, we adopt the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Today we have an annual report from the Parks Commission. It's in your agenda. It's information only. And also an annual report from the Tree Commission. It's in your agenda, information only. We also have several appointments to boards and commissions. I'm going to go down the sheet that's provided for you at your desk rather than the list on the agenda. The first two are mine, and if you'll put those on the next agenda, Mr. Phillips. And then Mr. Corretco, Farmer Street Cemetery Commission.
Next one as well, please.
Thank you. Mr. DeBose.
Next agenda, please.
Thank you. Youth Activities Commission, Mr. Corretco.
Next agenda, please.
Thank you. Convention Center Authority, Ms. Jenkins.
I'd like to reappoint Carla Stinson.
Second. Motion is second. We reappoint Carla Stinson to the Convention Center Authority. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next are several to the Ethics Commission. The first, Mr. Alexander.
Yes, I'd like to reappoint Dr. Rebecca Gibson.
Second.
Motion is second. We reappoint Dr. Rebecca Gibson to the Ethics Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next, Mr. Jimon.
Yes, I have two appointees. Number one is John Pirro.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. We appoint John Tiro to the Ethics Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And the next?
And the second one would be Mark Darrow.
Second.
All right. Motion is second. We appoint Mark Darrow to the Ethics Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Ms. Jenkins, the next two to the Ethics Commission.
The first one I'll put back on the agenda for next time, and the second one, I'd like to reappoint Sarah Towns.
Second.
All right. Motion is second. We reappoint Sarah Towns to the Ethics Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a council appointment to the Water and Light Commission, and Diane Parker, I'd like to reappoint her.
She said yes.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next on operations by the city manager, Mr. Phillips. Do you have anything today?
Just real quick, Mr. Mayor. I know it was very unfortunate that we had to cancel this year's Christmas parade, but I am excited to announce that we're going to be coming out with a new announcement on the same date. We're going to be providing details soon on a Santa Express.
Okay.
So we're going to be bringing Santa to the neighborhoods. Like I said, just stay tuned. We're working on the exact details of the route and the timing, but we're going to replace the parade this year and bring Santa out to the neighborhood. So we'll be on the same date, December 12th as the original Christmas parade, but we're working on a release and hopefully real soon have that out.
We're excited to see those details.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And I don't have anything today. Under new business, this is a public hearing application for alcohol beverage license for 33.5 East Broad Street. The reason for this is a new license. This is retail premise pouring sales of malt beverages only. And I'll open a public hearing at this time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this issue? But you are present. Thank you very much. Anyone else? I'll close the public hearing at this time. Ms. Dell, is everything in order? It is. We appreciate the applicant being here today. I'll entertain a motion on the issue.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Motion and a second. We approve the application as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next is also a public hearing. This is an application for alcohol beverage license, Waypoint Watercrest SL LLC. This is for retail on-premise pouring sales of malt beverage and wine. 285 Summerlin. The reason for this is also a new business. And I'll ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak to this issue. You are the applicant. Thank you for being here today. Ms. Della, is everything in order? I'll close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We grant the application as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for being here. The next item is a public hearing. This is an application for alcohol beverage license, J.C. Newnan Investment LLC, doing business as the Juicy Crab. This is at 1120 Bullsboro Drive. The reason here again is a new business, and I'll ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak to this issue. Is the applicant here today? Thank you for being here today. We appreciate you opening the new business. Ms. Della, is everything in order? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Another public hearing on an application for alcohol beverage license. This is for Carvelis Pizza Company, retail premise pouring sales of malt beverages and wine, 7 LaGrange Street, also a new business in town. This is a public hearing that I've opened at this time. Does anyone like to come forward? Are you representing Carvelis? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Ms. Della, is everything in order? Anyone else like to speak to this issue? Okay, I'll close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. We grant the application as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. This is also a public hearing, application for alcohol beverage license, Nabby Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Greenville Shell, retail off-premise package sales of malt beverages and wine, 226 Greenville Street, also a new business. As this is a public hearing for this, I'll ask if there's a, yes, you are. Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak to this issue? Ms. Della, is everything in order? I'll close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. We approve the application as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for all those and all the new businesses. We appreciate it very much. Next is consideration of an ordinance to amend the license fee for retail consumption dealer distilled spirits, malt beverages, and wine. You have this ordinance before you?
Yeah, I think Mr. Craver introduced it to you at the previous meeting to get some feedback, and it is an ordinance that would take the fee for the complete package, including the distilled spirits. We just approved several new or renewals, and you'll notice only one of them actually included the distilled spirits. I think 3 of those were actually for beer and wine. So this particular ordinance in front of you would take that complete package, including distilled spirits, from $5,000, cut that in half to $2,500. Just in reference, you'll see that the application for a beer and wine license is $500. So there's quite a bit of difference between beer and wine, and actually the application for distilled spirits. So again, it basically cuts it in half from $5,000 to $2,500. So it's roughly about an $80,000 impact to our budget, but we think it's a very business-friendly move. And actually, I've been preparing the draft budget for 2021. I've already got this incorporated in council ordinance, so choose to follow through and adopt the ordinance.
Right. Okay. Any questions of staff regarding this ordinance? Effective date, Mr. Phillips?
Mr. Sears, effective date?
Well,
Explain that. It's a little confusing.
yeah, the actual effective date is if you adopt,
Right.
when you adopt. But it doesn't go into effect until January 1.
Okay.
And that's because this is for 2021, not for 2020. So there's no retroactive.
So anyone, if we adopt this, so anyone actually paying, renewing their license and paying the $5,000 fee in 2020 will be given a rebate for that difference in 2021.
If it's
Correct.
for their 2021 application.
Right, sure.
Not for
That's right.
well, occasionally there's some who don't pay until late. So this does not apply to 2020 licenses, only to
2021 licenses, so it's renewals. All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried 5-2. All right, thank you. If you'll put this on our next agenda for a second final reading. The next item on the agenda is to request city council direction on the fire training facility concept and study results. Chief, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, sir.
Okay. Citizens voted for SPLOST 2019 that included a $1,750,000 for a fire training facility. The city currently has access to 10.35 acres owned by Newnan Utilities on Corinth Road as a consideration for a new fire training facility, and on our existing facility at Greason Trails, 4.275 acres. This is to assist you guys in making a decision to help us moving forward on this. Right now, we are sharing that with the city. It's ours, but county also trains with us there. So staff engaged 2WR, which is an architectural firm, to study the existing site and potential new site in order to prepare a conceptual and cost estimates of each site. Okay, this is our existing site. It's at Greason Trail. It has served us well. As you can see, it's an eyesore. It does need an upgrade. We're looking for some new, more modern training facilities, burn building, upgrading the existing tower there, and doing away with a lot of the stuff that you see there that are eyesores. Here's the conceptual. As you see, it's cleaned up. We will be moving a new burn building up to the top area there, more closer, that's to 34, and remodeling the existing tower that is already there. More parking, moving the training classroom down toward the end, and doing a bigger driver training course, as you can see there. We also have a drafting pit that we have to do on all of our engines yearly. We have to do our yearly pump testing, and they have to upgrade that and put another tank in. So here's the classroom. You see it'll be bigger. There will be women and men locker rooms there, which NFPA has got pretty stringent on, because when you're training, you're getting all those toxins and smoke in, a quick place to go shower and get those toxins off. The estimated cost of renovating the existing site at Greason Trail is $3,382,446. The amount budgeted in SPLOST is $1,750,000, so that leaves us with a deficit of $1,632,446. The pros and cons of renovating this existing site. Well, the pros is centrally located to downtown, which is in all of our stations and in our jurisdiction, which is very important to us, and it allows us to maintain our current response times. So less cost compared to the new site. It already has the existing utilities that we need. It's visual to the community, and it meets our current needs for the Newnan Fire Department. Also a potential link trailhead location. The con, it's smaller than the 10.35 acres. So the new site is off Corinth Road. As you see there, it's a little bit below the Coweta County Water Department. So basically it's going to be the same, except it will be a larger driver's course. I did look at this today a little more in depth, and I didn't see where they had a drafting pit in there for us, so we could do our pump service testing. The classrooms would be larger, which could help if we wanted partners. The new site estimated cost is $6,532,412. The amount budgeted again is $1,750,000, which leaves us with a deficit of $4,782,412. All right, the pros of this is located in an industrial area. There's more room for our drivers' training. There's more classroom space for potential partners. And the cons, it's not centrally located, which may affect our response times. And right now, there's no on-site utilities. And of course, it's a lot more expensive. All right, the potential schedule, the construction phase is the fall of the design phase is October of 2022. The construction phase would be fall 2023, and fully operational by summer of 2024. The schedule was created considering SPLOST 2019 revenue collection projections, allocated funds for projects that are currently underway, estimated deficit on both options, estimated construction. Cost does not include other costs such as design, FFE, et cetera. And in conclusion, the Newnan Fire Department respectfully requests the City Council to consider that the fire training facility remains at the current location due to the central location in order to maintain current response times, which is detrimental to serving the public and saving lives and property. And also the tremendous difference in the cost of erecting a new facility in the amount of $3,149,966, nearly double. So any questions?
Yes, Chief, I appreciate it. Some good research, good looking into this. I appreciate that. Just a couple of quick questions for you. You said the county uses our training facility. Do they have their own training facility, or is they just use it?
They just use ours, they do not.
And they would expect to continue using it after it's upgraded?
I assume, the last time that we talked, they were wanting to move a location to Ismond Ballard Road, which just wasn't conducive. That's too far out for us. It would delay our response times.
Okay. Looking at the small, the refurbishing what we have, the classroom space with the growth we've had, adding Station 4 in there, would that be enough classroom space to facilitate everybody, the growth we're having?
I believe so.
Okay.
Chief,
I just want to make sure that it will grow with us as we're growing.
For the city of Newnan, our existing location on Grayson Trail would accommodate us for many, 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 many years. I can't really see us outgrowing that. That's the city of Newnan. It's going to continue to be a joint venture between the city and the county. We would struggle in that location. If we decide to stay in that location, there needs to be some conversations with the county to determine what their direction is going to be. Obviously, if we're going to jointly build a fire training facility, there has to be two items. There needs to be financial agreement, right? I don't think there's any way, shape, or form we would support paying 100% for the county's fire training facility. Number two, there needs to be an operational agreement. There needs to be time to where our firemen can get in and do our training. There are times right now, to be completely honest, that we cannot get in to do our training, especially when they're putting on their rookie schools. They're in there 7 days a week at times in their rookie schools, and we have a difficult time accessing our facilities. Yes, we have worked with them looking at a joint location in Eastern Ballard Road. We were uncomfortable with the location being so far outside the city limits and the fact that we actually train while on duty. So there are some questions, probably bigger questions that need to be answered about the relationship between the city and the county, in my opinion, as it is about what our needs are. Our needs are pretty clear.
Yep.
Mr. Alexander?
yes, sir. Cletus, we talked earlier, there's been conversation with the county that we might go our own separate way of training. Have we heard any response from them as to?
I think we both can answer that question. Yes, we have had conversations, mine more so with Administrator Michael Fouts. He certainly wants to try to work things out, but at this point in time, I have heard no definite of what their plans are if we decide to stay in a city-type location, because I know they really would like for us to be a partner in their Ishman Ballard location, which I think is one of the locations where we would consider doing a new station.
Well, the problem, as I understand it, is not wanting to share, it's that we don't get a equitable amount of time when we try to share. I mean, you just said it, they're in there 7 days a week, and our training suffers because of that. I'd like to see us move out to the new location. It's more money, I understand that, but it's also forward-looking because it allows us to have 10 acres instead of the postage stamp we have now. I understand the location is much preferred, but I also see that location being a trailhead to the link with parking. If we were to move out to the Corinth Road location, it would enable us to be able to use that link more conveniently for our citizens. I just think the location has served its time on Grayson Trail, but as much as you try to put all the shrubbery that you want to in front of it, it still is what it is. a training facility, and, which we need desperately. I mean, I'm not saying we don't need it, but I just don't think it needs to be there any longer. We do have a lot of time. Appreciate the forward thinking on getting this to us now. So, and we're not looking for a decision today on this. We're looking for just guidance to see in which direction we might want to go. But I think we really need to solve first some of those city-county communication and training issues and expectation issues before we decide location.
Well, to me, that would be the number one thing, as you just suggested. If they have not contributed, my understanding, at all to the facility that is existing, correct me if I'm wrong, as well as,
They have contributed to the fire tower. And
To the burn building that's there now.
Okay.
To the burn buildings.
All right,
There
so-
has been some contribution, even though we own the property and have taken the majority of the financial obligation over the years. But- they have done some.
so that being said, though, they pretty much have occupied a number of valuable hours where our firemen have not been able to train new firemen, correct?
Correct. Now, and they are an organization of about 3.5, 4 times our size.
Well, I know,
So they
that
have
being
like
said, so what's
200.
going to be the difference if we, my question
Right.
would be,
I
and to define, what's going to be the difference if we move to a bigger location? It's just going to be kind of more of the same for more money. I mean, so, to your point,
It would be saying to them, we're in a new location now. If the only way you can come to this location is by fee, and you have to pay to be part of it, and here's our schedule, match you to us, not the other way around. It's working now, no fee, and we're matching our schedule to them. It's
correct, I mean, that's a big step, right? A lot of information needs to be gathered prior to.
I agree. Yeah.
I have one more question, Mayor, and that's, do we have any concerns with the ground, if there's any contamination due to the burning of what, kerosene or fuel mixture? Is that something we have to be concerned with later? Because that property will probably be used for someone else if we go to a new facility.
Well, obviously, we have not done any environmental assessment on the existing site. But you're right, we've been using that for a burn training facility for quite some time. And I'm not saying that all the practices for over the years were environmentally friendly. So, going forward, there probably need to be additional environmental
Okay.
exploration assessment. Now, obviously, the new location is a wooded site. And with today's standards of how we train, there's a lot more
Right.
a lot more precautions taken in how we train into pits and emptying fluids, et cetera, so it'd probably be a much cleaner operation than it may have been many years ago on that location.
Right. And I just want us to think about that in consideration if we're going to stay, if we're going to move on, because someone's going to pick up that cost.
I just had an alternative thought, and I kind of it just hit me kind of right before, and I mentioned it real briefly to Chief, and I don't mean to put you on the spot at all, but maybe an alternative consideration is we refurbish what we have, because it is a good location for us. And if we could, out at the Corinth Road location, put a test track, a drive track that would be, jointly used between the police and the fire, and you could have what you need out there, because you only need to do that once a year. But potentially something like that, because with a drive track, it might be considerably cheaper to do that, because you don't really necessarily need all the facilities and stuff, but just something to explore and look at.
Is this enough direction from council? We said we weren't making a decision on anything
Yeah,
today, but giving you
obviously, I hear
direction.
that we, want to try to get a little bit more of a direction with Quid County, even if it's even short-term at our existing location, and get to the long-term what their plans are. You saw that we don't plan to go to bid for, is it out to design until 2022. So we've got, a couple of years here before we really want to get active with this project. And the reason being is you saw the deficit numbers.
Right.
And
Sure.
we're also working on several unfunded, some projects right now. So we want to get those projects that we're working on out of the way before we divert our attention.
Absolutely.
We have time.
One other comment I'd like to make, or question more or less, is that if we do move out to Corinth Road, would there be any way that our current firemen could train off-duty instead of on-duty And if we do, that's gonna make a hit to our budget.
Chief, you may need to-
We've tried, and that's really hard to get those guys in off duty because most of these guys are working two jobs, and it's hard for them to dedicate that day off. We've tried that, and it just doesn't seem to work.
Okay.
It's understandable. Yeah.
Also, I just have one last question, Chief. In regards to the response time, can you give us a bottom line on how that would affect the citizens of
Well, it
Newnan by being in another location? And
Greason is really pretty much like in the central, right in the middle. So if we are training, we try to split these guys up and not just leave a station empty, but if we have to come up there and do a big burn, it's in an area where we can get in any direction in a pretty quick time. I mean, from Corinth there, I mean, we would still be able to get around downtown. It might be a little bit further out to the Summer Grove area, but it'd be a lot better than Esmond Valley Road.
Would that affect our fire rating? Possibly?
No, not during training, because what affects the fire ratings is where the stations are located
Okay.
and what apparatuses that we have and the personnel.
It's kind of a follow-on to his question, response times, not just Corinth, but how do you see, if we were to move out to like Ishman Ballard, how would that affect it? I mean, I know it's even further, so, especially for some parts of town.
I mean, I'd hate to live out in Summer Grove or Parks Road and have a fire and us be training over there in Esmond Valley Road.
It's a great way to put it. Thank you. Anything else on this? I think staff's got some direction. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation very much. Okay, the next is a consideration of the disposal and acceptance of sealed bids for real property.
Mayor Brady,
Mr.
members
Brady.
of the council, Mr. Phillips and I have received letters we do from time to time regarding residents and other folks interested in acquiring certain properties owned by the city. You have two letters in your packet here. One is from a property owner along East Broad who has shown interest in acquiring property. The city came into ownership as a result of the McIntosh Parkway project. It is essentially, for conversation's sake, we can call it a backyard. They've shown interest in trying to acquire that property. The other is an individual who's probably known to some of you, Mr. Billy Cranford with Cranford Homes, who has acquired properties over time and is currently working on a residential subdivision within the city of Newnan. He has shown an interest at Summer Grove Lot 38 in the common shared wall area. What do they call them? East Lake Townhomes, thank you. And acquiring that property, and those letters are both in there. I'm looking for direction here, but my recommendation would be that we go ahead and proceed with the disposal of these properties, and then solicitation of requests for proposals for them. However, I would like to draw your attention to the lot at 99 East Washington. It is my opinion and that of staff that it's not suitable for a single-family home. It's a small lot. It would not meet the variances required would be tremendous to put a single-family home there. So instead, if it's the council's wish to proceed according to our recommendation, that we put some sort of restriction to allow it to not have a single-family home on it. If somebody wanted to put an outbuilding or an accessory structure, that's a different story. I believe that's okay, but.
I think it would be of
Since we
interest
don't-
to 3 adjoining property owners, and that's it.
Mr.
And
Shelby.
it will
One
need
thing
to be,
about a building, we ought to have some kind of architectural control, because we don't want something looking bad next to our lake. And it's fine, I think it's good, because they're gonna keep it up and make it look better, but still, I mean, you could break some bad looking things and set it up there, and it's just an eyesore to the lake.
The other concern that I have is that, because there's no map in here, and I didn't look it up on our thing yet, but, okay. So we also own, I think it's 100 East Newnan Road, East Washington.
That's
Okay,
the
and I
home.
wanted to know where it was in,
That,
okay.
yeah, and we're talking about this, again, as I refer to as a backyard.
Grass strip and it's
Yes, sir.
not like-
No, I see it. I didn't get a
Yeah,
chance
right
to
here.
get by there. I knew that we were working on that one, so I
Yes,
didn't
ma'am.
I wanted to make sure that it wasn't
There
close
was a
enough
house
to.
on it before we did the right-of-way acquisition, but the house was actually in the right-of-way. encroached in the right of way. So
Okay.
when we acquired the property, we just demoed the structure. You could build a house back, but it would really encroach upon those existing homes. Right now, we're going out mowing it, and the person that's acquired is an adjacent property owner.
Okay.
You know, we did this situation on Wesley Street where we sowed a strip and we put in the RFP, we said it's only restricted for accessory uses, and we had one bidder, the adjacent property owner. If council wants to do that, that would be our recommendation on this, because we don't see us building a house there.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I just wanted to make sure that I
Yes,
knew
ma'am.
where it was in
And
the
reference
other-
to the property that we
Mr.
own.
Sears?
Well, two things, and Tracy can speak to this better than me, but that's zoned RUI. So if you look at the size of the houses and the setbacks, your building footprint would probably be about that big, the way you average. So you would have to abandon the RUI zoning to put a house back on it. Number one. But number two, it's smaller than it appears, because we acquired part of it right away.
That's right.
It will need to be surveyed to cut out the right of way that we need for East Washington.
Okay.
So that's got to be done first. So that would reduce the footprint.
Okay, so we got two things here, 99 East Washington and then the other property.
Yes, sir.
So can I get a motion to go out for the consideration of disposal and acceptance of sealed bid for the other properties that do not include 99 East Washington?
38 East Lake Towns.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so 99 East Washington, we need to put some conditions on that.
Yes.
First thing is, who's going to pay for that survey? I mean, the property owners who have petitioned us, if they're willing to pay for that survey,
Yeah, that's right.
But then we usually will set a minimum bid that will recover the cost of the survey.
okay,
All right, but it's a little hard to ask these people to go
without
pay for
knowing
the
they're going to
survey,
get the
and
property.
they may not get it.
I can understand.
Okay.
Okay. So is there a motion then to set a minimum bid on 99 West Washington and go out to bid on it?
Yes, our expenses is a minimum, whatever we
Cover
can
expenses.
Cover, yes.
Right, that's right.
Second.
Motion, who made the motion?
Oh, with the accessory.
With the,
What's, you made the motion, okay.
with the restrictions.
With the restrictions. Motion is second. Any further discussion on that? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. All right, so the next is a consideration of construction of the contract award, budget and funding for pickleball facility. Mr. Craver?
Mayor Brady, members of the council, almost a year ago, October 22nd, 2019, a large group came into this chamber and successfully gained your interest in proceeding with the location of the pickleball facility. The location was determined, preliminary design was completed, full design was completed thereafter. City staff saw proposals for a contractor, and I'm here in front of you suggesting that the city engage Headley Construction for the contract amount of $1.7 million, or $1,731,900 for the construction of a pickleball facility on Hannah Boulevard. In addition to that, I'm requesting that the council consider a full project budget of $1,926,900 to complete the construction and outfitting of this facility. It's also important to note that the funding source for this is unassigned fund balance.
Make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. We accept the city staff's recommendation on awarding the contract and budget and funding for the pickleball facility. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, we're into unfinished business. This is the second and final reading, rezoning request RZ 2020-02, Inline Communities LLC for 22.007 acres located on McBride Street, tax parcel N58-001-002, 90 Sprayberry Road, tax parcel N36-015, a portion of 92 Sprayberry Road, tax parcel N36-014, and tax parcel N58-0006011. This is for a second and final reading. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and now that we do, I was the person who voted against this last time, and I've still got questions. I'm not sure who I'm going to ask those to. Who is here today representing online community?
I'm here, Melissa Griffiths, and I've also got Brian Eschrein with Inline Communities. I do not have a traffic engineer with us, though.
Okay, it's not so much about traffic. I'm wondering if Inline Communities has yet made a decision on who they're going to flip this property to, who the builder's going to be?
They do not yet have, they have 3 that are up for selection. We were trying to get through today as approval, hopefully, before they made that decision. All
Okay.
3 of those contractors and builders, though, have approved the plans and understand all the conditions that have been approved and what is required, and the proffered conditions as well.
Further question on that, are all 3 of those builders familiar with and experienced with condominium building versus townhome building? Because we've had a depth of conversation about the difference between these houses or these properties being built as townhomes on a publicly dedicated street and what is being proposed are condominiums, which is going to be on a private driveway, which is going to set up a situation where if a condominium association were to fail, you'd have a private drive there that the city is not going to take care of.
Yes, sir.
We're not obligated to take care of. And we found during the downturn that we had lots of developers and builders who just walked away from bonds that were out there on streets and other facilities at HOAs that were not complete, that the promises were made, and then they didn't get completed because of financial constraints. So I am still very concerned that a condominium association sets that up more than an HOA sets that up, especially with the private street and the upkeep of the private street. So I just need some assurance that that's going to take place. And
Yes,
I
sir.
don't know how you give that to me.
The only thing I know, Mr. Mayor and council members, is all 3 of these have built townhomes and have built condominium developments in the state. They are aware of the state statutory requirements for the Georgia condominiums. It is my understanding that they all have the financial wherewithal to enter into this project, or they wouldn't be building on it. I understand the concerns of other projects, but I believe with the requirements, the proffered conditions, and the condominium statute in the state law on top of the city of Newnan, hopefully there are as many parameters to protect the city in there as possible.
Mr. Phillips, do we require any bonding at all on private streets?
No, not to my knowledge, not on a private
We
street.
do require bonding on public streets.
Public
Yes, sir.
streets.
How long is that bond?
2 years.
2 years?
That's more about failure of the street or completion according to specs, right?
Well, but it's about failure of that street. Let me ask you this, from a staff perspective, and I know I asked this question in the first, but I'll refresh everybody's memory, I'll ask it again. This private road is being built to city specifications, is that correct?
That is the way our development regulations are stated,
Okay.
that is correct.
So I know that when city streets are built, city inspectors go out and inspect the streets as they are being built for base, compaction, and other things.
That is correct.
Is this the same thing going to happen with this private street?
In this particular case, we will probably rely upon a third-party independent inspector provided from the, Mr. Clark, am I correct, or do we have the resources to do that? That's correct. The third party,
Good professional engineer.
that's
Right.
correct.
But the 2-year bond that we rely on from the city's point of view, when the street is finished, if it fails for some reason during that 2-year period, we've got that bond to fall back on. I guess what I'm asking here is if this street fails during that 2-year period, who do they have to fall back on? Say the builder has gone, he's finished, he's built, he's sold all the condos. Who pays for that?
The developer would be willing to pay for a 2-year bond, to
Okay.
add that as a condition. The developer would be willing to pay for a 2-year bond to add that to the previously approved conditions to address that concern the mayor has.
Okay, Who made the motion for the second on this? Would you be?
You want to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Who made the second?
Mr. Alexander.
Did I make the motion to approve?
I made a motion and then an amended motion, and she seconded.
Okay.
So what we're voting on here is an ordinance amended to include the developer, Inline Communities, posting a 2-year bond from the date of the completion of the private street. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Even though you will have at that point finished with the builder, or I guess tell me your process here. Are you going to develop this? Ms. Griffiths, if you could, are you going to develop the project completely, including building all of the street and the infrastructure and everything? And
So I'm Brian Harris. I'm going to speak on behalf of Brian Musoff, who's with Inline. I'm in Inline too, but I kind of run behind the scenes in other geographies. From Brian's perspective right now, he's planning on going through with the development and then partnering with a third-party builder who's we've explained, and they're all reputable builders in the area. I've actually worked for Pulte, and I jumped on board at Inline 2 years ago, or not, in February. So we're kind of going along on that process right now. Brian's going to do development, and then he's going to have a home builder come in and do the vertical construction.
Okay, so let me just repeat what you just said to make sure for the record we understand that Inline Community is going to do the development, going to do the site work, going to put in all the infrastructure, going to build the private road, going to do everything that's typically associated with a developer's role in the property, and then sell the property to a builder to go vertical.
So I need to protect Inline Communities. I can't say Inline is going to be the developer for some unforeseen reason down the line. We can't have that barrier on the property. So we can say developer or builder would perform it. I can't be specific and say Inline, just to protect Inline going forward.
I understand. You could go back to the office and start making phone calls to flip this property to another developer.
That's not our plan right now.
Right, but you could.
I got to protect, and I'm trying to do the best I can in the position I'm in right here, standing in front of the podium.
It goes with property.
That's right. I mean, what we're doing here is entitling the property with all the restrictions, with the entitlement and the restrictions and the conditions, but you're free to go sell it to another developer tomorrow afternoon.
So I think what we're saying, Mr. Mayor, is the condition could be for the builder or developer for 2 years after the completion, whoever is in that is fine to put it on whoever is in that role.
That's right.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
I just have a question. Because of the nature, this is not the city, the bond would be to the condominium association for the 2-year period.
I'm sorry, say that again?
All right, the city's not involved. All right, what we normally do is the developer goes out, he builds the road. The developer goes out, puts in the infrastructure, does not put the top coating of paving on. We don't require the 2-year maintenance bond until after the top coat is put on. All right, and the bond and the entity that is insured is the city. All right, in this particular case, it's a private road, so the city would not be the insured. Once the top coat is put on, I assume they're going to develop it similar to the way a subdivision is and not put the top coat on their driveway or on their private roadway until after the last or next to the last buildings are built.
I can speak to that, yeah. We would complete the top surface once the last vertical building would be completed.
All right, so it's similar to the city, but the maintenance bond would be to the condominium association, not to the city, because the city wouldn't be authorized to go repair the roads.
That's fine. That's fine,
Is that-
Mr. Sears. Yes, sir. That'll be fine.
Okay, so everybody understand what we've got here?
Yep.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried 6-1. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of a resolution to adopt 2020 update on the capital improvements element, the CIE, which includes the short-term work program. Mr. Cole, how are you today?
Thank you. I'm fine, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon. Yes, sir. So we are here just to ask you to adopt the 2020 CIE update. We previously had a public hearing before the council. Thank you.
Okay, this is consideration of resolution. Is there a motion to
So
adopt the
moved.
resolution?
Second.
Motion is second. We adopt the resolution of the 2020 update on capital improvements element, which includes short-term work program. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to consider a contract award for the installation of traffic signal at the intersection of LaGrange Street, Boone Drive, Cougar Way, and related construction. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. We award the contract as presented by staff. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is consideration of a memorandum of Maris Management and Leadership Consulting related to Phase 1 outcomes and Phase 2 recommendations. Mr. Craven?
Mayor Brady, members of the council, Ms. Maris is with us today. You also have a copy of the memo that she has included. It's in your packet. I'd invite Ms. Maris to come up, and if the council has any questions, that she can answer them. She's well suited. We got to know her and fall in love with her when she worked in the city of Decatur, and she's been a joy to work with on this project to date.
Ms. Maris, how are you today?
Well, thank you.
Good. If you will, state your name for the record, please.
I'm Peggy Maris. I'm the principal with Maris Management and Leadership Consulting.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Maris? We had the report in your agenda and the recommendation.
I do.
Sure.
Looking at the report, you have decided to go with, or at least are suggesting, that we go without having citizens as part of the review process. And I believe it said that it was the consensus of those that you interviewed. Am I reading that correctly? Is that you're suggesting we don't have citizens on the task force?
The feedback that I received was that in order to move it forward and act in an expeditious manner, a majority of the persons interviewed indicated that they felt like that using the citizen task force approach was going to delay and make it more difficult to achieve, whereas if we used expert panels and teams from the staff, you'd be able to achieve it in a much more expeditious manner, given that most of this is internal processes, even though they have external facing implications.
Okay. I guess my concern, because I'm one of those people that when you talked to me, we talked about the fact that a good bit of this will need some sort of expert opinions to it. And I don't disagree with that at all. I think that is definitely where we should go. I guess the way that I read it was kind of that we are not involving citizens at all, and I thought, well, am I wrong in having that assessment, that there won't be any citizen input at all? Or is there a way that we can make sure that we have citizen input? Because that's my concern right now, is that we're saying that there's no citizen input.
Well, I certainly think for the what would be called the expert groups, to the extent we can use citizens, particularly citizens and community members in Newnan, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
And so those groups haven't been selected yet. So that would be, I think, a really good place where if there are folks that you all as council members and the mayor and the staff know who could be subject matter experts for us in either the law enforcement procedures and policies and or kind of the human resources recruitment and retention, that would be really helpful, because I think the other thing that came out of the interviews was a strong sense that whatever recommendations that are brought to council reflect things that can be doable and effective for Newnan. So yes, ma'am, I think there's still definitely opportunity for community and citizen members of Newnan to really have an impact and be very helpful to the process.
Okay.
So to put those input groups together, you'll come back to us with a set of recommendations on what qualifications would be for members?
The process that I've suggested is that I work with your staff, your management team staff, the city manager and the assistant city manager, to put together how what those expert groups would need to look like. Certainly, bring them back to you is fine. It's fine with me. That's really the manager and the assistant city manager's call. I'm perfectly fine with
Sure.
that. Yes, sir.
Understand. Okay, anything else from anyone?
No, otherwise, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. We had a great conversation.
Well, thank you. It was really a pleasure getting to know all of you. And I'm thankful because I know you all are very busy and you took your time to spend with me. I learned a lot about Newnan.
Good, glad you did. Okay, is this an action item?
Yeah, I would certainly like the council to consider a motion to move forward.
Okay.
So
what would be
moved.
considered phase 2.
Right, okay, that's fine. I have a
Is
motion.
there a time limit over which we want to assign this, or? No?
That's been a conversation that Ms. Craver and Ms. Maris and I have been having, and, we didn't want to back us into a specific, 90 days, 60 days, 120-day window. But we know that we need to continue to be moving forward. So I think that's the success. If we're moving forward and this thing ends up taking 6 months, it takes 6 months. But if we move forward and we can get it done in 90 days, we get it done in 90 days. I just didn't want to tie us into a window.
We've put artificial timelines on things before, and we don't get finished, and citizens say, what happened? You didn't do what you said you were gonna do. So
Yeah, but can't you have a projected time frame, and then that can be adjusted? I mean, my concern would be, okay, let's say 6 months, or then it drags into all of 2021.
We've got, Ms. Maris has proposed a recommendation, I think, into March. It's kind of a target, March of 21, kind of a target timeframe.
Okay.
You got to understand, we're getting ready to roll into November and December.
Right, I understand that.
So where do we leave it with the task force, or are we utilizing the task force of?
Well, my understanding, the way the proposal is written, that Ms. Maris, Mr. Craver, myself, are going to identify members of the expert panel.
Okay.
We'll present the expert panel back to the council for final ratification.
certainly.
And then, let's be honest, I mean, whether you have public communication or, this is a public meeting.
Right.
I know that I've heard from many of you all about this process, and there's going to be a set of recommendations on what these policy revisions are going to be. I mean, that's when they are a matter of public record. I know there was some concerns about, policy review is complicated.
Yes.
Right? And it can get very sensitive. But, we've heard, as Ms. Maris explained, having expert matters that understand, whether in the education, whether in the profession of it, it's much different than if you're dealing with 7 citizens who have an opinion of it. But, so the way I'm taking this is we're going to bring you back the list, you're going to ratify it, and then that, whatever the makeup of that is, we're going to bring you back a set of policy revisions.
Okay.
How you choose to handle that to solicit public input at that point in time is really your decision.
Okay.
Well, as Ms. Mayor said, we have some people, most likely, we've got some folks that are experts within our own community who I believe it would be a mistake to leave them out of that process. I mean, I can name a couple right now that do this.
And I think it goes back to his point that they would come up with a list.
Okay. I'll add them to the list.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all got to realize here, this was not a real, I'm just going to speak freely, an easy task for Ms. Maris to put together this final memorandum, but there was not set on no consensus on how this process will look. So just at the end of the day, after discussing with the consensus of council, this is what guided the direction of the memo.
Okay, so do I have a motion and a second?
You have a motion that we proceed with recommendation by Ms. Maris.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Merritt. We appreciate your work. The next is consideration of the appointment of a selection review committee to grant writing administrative services for a FY 2021 CHIP grant. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you very much.
Good.
Council. Essentially, like our CDBG grant, we need to appoint a selection review committee for the grant writing administrative services that we have to send out an RFQ for, so we are asking you all to do that today.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion is second, we approve the request as offered by staff. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next, under visitors, is College Temple Neighborhood request to close streets for the annual Halloween event. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Brady.
I have a question.
Motion is second.
And you're probably gonna
I'm
answer.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I was gonna ask which streets, do we have a list of
I
streets?
have a, wait a minute, I have a motion and a second. Okay, so discussion. Go ahead. Yeah, y'all were, wait a minute on that
I wanted to
motion.
make sure, last year, this body allowed the Newnan Police Department to move and adapt as the crowd was needed, and so I was gonna seek that same permission, that it's not just College Street.
We don't know the exact streets.
We move
That's
them
what
on
we're
West
doing.
Washington, and we move to where the crowds are, so I was gonna ask if we could have that same, police department could have that same freedom this year.
Sure.
We did.
Did that cause any problems?
It's not real easy on our police staff, to be honest with you, but it is safe for our participants. What happens is when we close the street, there always seems to be a resident or two when that street is closed, even though there's a couple hundred trick-or-treaters on the street. They want to get out of their house in their driveway. So our officers have to clear the street and clear the road to get the individual out of their house. But we do the best we can. It's one night a week or a year for Halloween, so we'll continue to do the best we can. We just need some flexibility.
Sure.
Same thing in Summer Grove. We've had to close some streets there. You know, I think I specifically mentioned that in last year's request, so I think the authorization should be just as needed for Halloween, so.
Right.
And the numbers may be lower to COVID though this year, lower than normal.
Yeah, 'cause they're gonna be fewer
Is that something we maybe need to look at in the future, like kind of having a certain, at least block area, or, you know, something that would help them do their job and do it well?
The more details we can have up front, the better it would help them, but we've always been very accommodating.
Yep.
So.
Right, I mean, this is the same email I've always gotten from Steve. I mean,
Because
it's just
it
been-
comes to us, everybody does
Right,
it.
he says, it's time for Halloween.
We make it work.
And we do, yeah. So that's the motion and second we have. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is White Oak Golden K, to request permission to set up kiosks on Court Square for their annual pecan sale the weekends of November the 6th to the 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, we grant the request as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a request from the Newnan Junior Service League to establish a collection point on the square for their countathon December the 1st from 7 to 7.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that ends our regular agenda, and we have the need for an executive session for real estate. I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Alexander to take us into an executive session.
Yes, sir. I move that we now enter into closed session as allowed by OCGA 50-14-4 and pursuant to advice by the city attorney for the purpose of discussing real estate, and that we in open session adopt a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor or presiding officer to execute an affidavit in compliance with OCGA 50-14-4, and that this body ratify the actions of the council taken in closed session and confirm that the subject matters of the closed session were within exceptions permitted by the open meetings law.
Second.
Motion is second. We go into executive session for real estate. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.